Everybody, welcome back to iHeartRadio. So bad it's good. Today, this is very exciting. I learn from you guys. I know some of you guys say you learn from me, which is ridiculous, but I learn from you. And you guys have been asking me to reach out to my next guest for a very long time. And I know I'm like a fuddy-duddy, like I'm learning about tarot and astrology and things like this. It does not come, this is something that I'm learning about. I've always been scared about it most of my life. And doing all of this, you start to actually meet people that are just fascinating, the skills and the talent they have. And today we get to speak to one of them. You might know him from his insanely amazing YouTube channel. He is considered like the pop culture psychic. I mean, I was just going through his videos on his YouTube channel. Even just in the last week, he had Ice Spice potentially being an industry plant. He had Britney Spears reuniting with her mom, which we talked about on Monday's show. He even dipped into Brian Koberger and the Idaho murders, which was so dead on, because he's saying things that turn out to be completely correct. And I know he's listening to me going, yeah, that's what I do. But it is still shocking because you're like, this dude actually knows. He's just guessing. He did a video on Vanderpump Rules 2 months ago, not really knowing anything about this or the characters involved. And he nailed it. I mean, the first thing he said, he was like, Ariana Maddox, and he flipped the card and he was like, okay, daddy issues right there. I mean, just nailed it right out of the gate, and in a very respectful way. He says like on the channel, he has sass and all that stuff, but he's dead on. He's got a good heart. And I'm so happy to have him here today. YouTube channel, Twitch stream, website, it's all going to be on the show notes. But Antphrodite, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you for the warm welcome. I feel so honored.
Listen, I told people you were coming on and people were freaking out. It's so wild when this community of people, they all know you. They all think such good things of you. How did you even get started doing this? Was it 2020 when you started?
Well, honestly, I've been doing this for 6 years. And so it's like kind of weird. I literally just started making stuff with just my personality, and people would notice like in the corner I had like tarot cards and stuff. And someone was like, oh, do you like do readings? And I was like, I mean, yeah, but I don't know if anyone's interested in that. And then it just took off. And like when it came to like promoting my stuff, I was like, okay, I love pop culture. Let me marry the two together to promote what I do. And that blew up. So it was like kind of an accident.
I mean, but what a beautiful accident. And I mean, I was on your Twitch page, and I do a lot of long form podcasting, but you're on there 3-4 hours at a time. Yeah. I mean, how do you do this on a daily basis and just remain like, does it suck the energy from you, or do you get so much energy from it?
Yeah, no, it's extremely draining. I would say I'm kind of a workaholic and a workhorse. Like, It's difficult when you love what you do, because like it doesn't feel like work. And so, like, I mean, I juggle a million things. Like, I'm juggling streaming, I'm alive for hours, I'm juggling making YouTube videos, TikTok videos. I mean, doing my private readings on my website, Antphrodite.com. Like, I just do so much. I do so much, and it's just like, and then I have to juggle my real life, and then I wonder why I'm single. But
wait, what's a real life? That's the thing that it's like.
I know.
I was talking about that concept of like that old adage of like, if you find what you love, you'll never feel like you did a day of work in your life. But it's like we both. I mean, like I'll do this for like 12, 13 hours a day. And I mean, I've never been more fulfilled, but it is so weirdly draining. And to stay in this, and with pop culture especially, there is something happening every minute, every hour. And we've never been like this in terms of pop culture because of the access to social media and things like YouTube. What do you like? Where do you go? Like, how do you know which topics to cover? Is it audience based? Is it a feeling that you have?
It's mostly audience based, especially now, because I feel like when I first started, it was easier for me to keep up. But now, because I do so many things, sometimes it's hard. I would say it's probably 90% audience based. I will ask people like what's being talked about. And then 10% is like stuff that I think is interesting or that I think people would be interested in.
And just so you know, if you don't, go to the YouTube channel. If you're just listening to this, not watching it, go to his YouTube channel. It is so beautifully produced because he has like the camera on the cards, when the flip of the cards. It really is. And I know I geek out about things like that, and it might not be of interest to you guys, but I think it is a beautiful production. Creating your own content is the way to go. He has his own TV show multiple times a day, and it potentially gets more viewers than really basic cable stations. So I mean, it's true.
Thank you. Thank you.
But you also have just such a great look, the vibe, your bedroom, your chair. It's so vibrant and colorful. I'm going to stop kissing your ass right now because I'm sure
you
that's
could do it
very
forever.
awkward. So let's get into Vanderpump Rules if we can.
Okay, sure.
Now you did this reading, like I said, 2 months ago, or right when this stuff was breaking. And just to refresh your memory, because I don't believe you're watching, but we had a cheating scandal between Ariana Madix, Tom Sandoval, and this girl Raquel Leviss, who her actual name is Rachel.
Okay.
And you had, you were very accurate in what you said about this. You said Tom was very insecure. That was something that you had picked up on. You had also, you said, sensitive, insecure person. You had mentioned, you said Ariana is potentially bossy, or she wore the pants in that relationship, and that attacked his insecurity, which I thought was just so genius and you nailed. What I would like to talk about with you is we have the second part of the reunion, and I want to just start with, there's supposedly a big surprise coming out at this reunion that the cast does not know about. That is something happening between Raquel, Tom, and Ariana, but it's something so devastating that people might not sign up to be on season 11 of Vanderpump Rules.
Okay.
Is there any kind of thing that you can, I don't even know how to ask you this. Is there any way you can get a prediction or a vibe, or can the cards tell us anything about what direction this might be headed in that would be so shocking?
Well, I've gotten a lot of people were throwing chairs at me for that reading. Because
Wait, why?
Because they were like, you're not on team this person, or you're not on that team. I was like, first of all, there's 12 people involved, and I'm so confused. But honestly, first of all, there's no way none of them are signing back on. The money's too good. Sorry. I'm not born yesterday. That's all PR as far as I'm concerned. But what I remember specifically about that reading is that I don't understand why everyone is so gung-ho to go after Rachel, or whatever her name is. Raquel. Yeah. I don't understand why people are so aggressively going after her. And maybe it's because I don't watch the show, but from my perspective in tarot, I don't think Ariana didn't know what was going on. And that's something that I'm going to stand behind. I think she was in denial, but I don't think that she was like, oh my God, I'm blindsided. I'm pretty sure the two of them were kind of to me, their relationship reminds me a lot of people who are in dead bedrooms, who are just chilling and coasting, and it's not really emotional or sexual, and it's kind of just there. So I mean, if I were to take a intuitive guess in terms of who's going to drop a bombshell, I mean, it depends on your opinion of what a bombshell is, because for me, I would be more interested in what Ariana is going to say if she's going to be honest, because I definitely think that she knew more than she's pretending that she didn't know. You know what I mean?
No, I totally know what you mean, but also it is funny that you say that about kind of dead relationships, in the sense of separate lives, but a lot of relationships are like that. A lot of relationships are very just, this is our pattern, this is our thing, but then you introduce this new element of a cheating element. So when you say she potentially knew, do you think she knew specifically, or she just didn't open her eyes to the reality of that situation that was actually in front of her face?
I mean, I'm of the opinion that I think pretty much every girl knows, but whatever. I think that when it comes to the specific, maybe she didn't know that it was her, but I'm sure she had a hunch, and I'm sure she knew that he was wandering. From what I see, she's too smart, too savvy, and too on it to not realize what was going on. But I do think that it's a big benefit to pretend like you are completely in the dark, because everyone's going to rally, and it's a great way to get back at him. Not that he's innocent, but what I'm saying is that's the perfect play, in my opinion, to stick it to him.
Could it have been a surprise that it was with one of her best friends, Raquel? Or do you think she was potentially aware that it was her?
I mean, again, I don't watch the show, so maybe the fans will get mad at me. But
I love it. Just say, no, this is great. This is perfect that you don't watch the show. Actually,
you're not going to convince me that those two are best friends. Sorry, I don't really care. That's, in my opinion, bullshit. But whatever. I mean, if they say it, then they say it. But to me, I definitely think that there was a back and forth between those two way before she ever was interested in Tom.
A back and forth
between Raquel and Ariana, way before Raquel did anything with Tom.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a game between the two of them for sure.
Yeah, you had mentioned something in that initial reading that you were saying that Raquel potentially really didn't care for Ariana in a lot of ways, or didn't respect her in the ways that a friend would respect a friend, potentially.
To me, the energy was like who you pretend to be versus who you are, not exactly in alignment. That's like how
Yeah.
I felt like Raquel was feeling towards Ariana.
Now, I know you don't watch the show, but from my perspective for Raquel, Rachel,
Mhm.
she's the big question mark in all of this for me. Like, Tom is very easy to read, and I think it was very easy for you to read with even the cards you were very easy. Ariana, very strong, not
Right.
easy to read, but you can see what's going on. With Raquel, she's always the big question mark for all of us because she doesn't really speak. When she speaks, it's with a very insecure voice. She
Right.
doesn't really communicate effectively. So she's the big question mark. Is there anything that you could potentially tell us or feel like, because we don't know what's going on with her and she's hidden away. She's supposedly in a mental health facility because of all of this, but we don't know. She's remained quiet. Everybody else is talking, talking, talking. She's the big question mark. Is there anything that you're picking up on or anything
I mean,
specifically we could ask?
isn't it so funny, the society we live in, that the girl is getting all of the blame and not the guy?
I know. Is it? He's out there on the road. He's like with his cover band on the road with his
Making
shirt off.
money.
Like, well,
So sick
barely,
of
but he's
it.
there. Yeah,
I'm so sick of it. That's why when everyone's like, she's a terrible person, I'm just like, okay, maybe you should look inwards. But anyways, regardless, honestly, she read as a bit naive and vulnerable to me. I saw her as someone that kind of is, how do I word this? A lot of girls grow up and are sort of conditioned to sort of like look up to a man or look for a man to save them or protect them, like a princess syndrome. And I think she has that. So I think for her, a lot of her self-worth is tied to what a man can help her with or do for her. And so I think when it came to that dynamic between the two of them, I think she was hurt and broken and lost. And I think he was there to kind of swoop in. And so, I mean, obviously it takes two to tango, and I don't think she was innocent, but I also think that there's a part of her that's kind of just looking to be saved. I think she also wanted to stick it to Ariana. So,
dude, you nailed that first part. So because you don't watch the show, she was with
yeah.
this guy DJ James Kennedy that was on the show, and like she does look for, and even that's talked about in the finale was that she's trying to find her identity in these men, and it is this person. And Tom Sandoval was there to be like, "You're the best, you're amazing," pumping you up. I mean, you nailed that. How much doing what you do though is that? It's you're doing tarot, and there's how much is it just you're just so intuitive, actually how human nature works. What is the marriage of those two things? Like, how much is it just you just know how to read people, and how much of it is the cards and the stars and things of that nature?
Tarot is a language, and I'm able to interpret it. That's how I look at it. I don't have an inner dialogue. I only see pictures, and so visuals really help me. And I think for me, tarot cards are kind of like a guiding tool. When you have like bumpers in bowling, that's kind of what it's like for me. I'm throwing the ball, and the bumpers are the cards, kind of knocking me in the right direction and making sure I hit the pins at the end. So for me, it's just a language. I also see patterns. So like I've been doing this for years, so everyone pretty much fits a similar pattern. So once I catch on to the energy of the pattern, I can kind of tell what this person is like based off of previous people.
Did that used to scare you that you were a person that just saw images instead of having an inner dialogue when you were younger? Was that something that was like, oh, wow, I think I might think a little differently than other people?
It's funny because I didn't really realize that wasn't normal. I thought when people were like, oh, like, the voice in my head or whatever. And I was just like, oh, okay. I thought it was like a figure of speech. It wasn't until I was in my like mid-20s where I was like, oh, wait, I'm weird. And like, honestly, I wish I would have known earlier because I think a lot of my struggles in school were because of that. Maybe we should test for that or something. I don't know. But regardless, I think for me, it doesn't really scare me, but it scares other people because I am like, when I first meet people, sometimes stuff just flies out of my mouth and I just like say things about them and they get very like, oh, what the hell? And I'm like, oh shit, like, oops. Especially if I'm like drinking, I'm just like, literally, it's so bad. Like, I can give you a great example. The other day I was at a bar with my friend and we were drinking, just having a good time. And these workers, they look like construction workers, came by and she was like, what's going on? And I just was like, oh, someone's stuck. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, someone's stuck in the elevator. Literally, someone was stuck in the elevator. And she's like, how the hell did you know that? I was like, honestly, I don't know. So it's just like weird stuff like that just happens to me. So it's just all a part of me. I don't know. I'm weird.
No, I mean that's beautiful. It's not weird. I mean, it's maybe considered weird, but what a gift! What a cool thing that you have. I mean, that's. Is there a one pop culture story that you've covered? Like, I'm obsessed with Vanderpump Rules. A lot of the
Uh-huh.
people listening are obsessed with Vanderpump Rules. Is there one pop culture story in the last 6 years that you've been obsessed with? Like, you're like, I don't even care that I'm doing this. Like, I'm doing this for myself.
I mean, I love Britney, so I think anything Britney related, Britney Spears. But also, I don't know. I find interesting things in everything. Like for me, celebrities are not as interesting as normal people for me. So when it comes to pop culture moments, it's more about something that I can dive into the mind of somebody. So true crime is very, very fun for me because I'm learning. First of all, it's like the hardest thing I could possibly do. It's super challenging, and I love challenging things. You know, celebrity stuff I can do it in my sleep, but like true crime is like so difficult. And for me, I'm always trying to get better and better and better. So like if I'm wrong with something, it excites me because I'm like, ooh, I can figure out like what I was missing, and for the next time and stuff. So I really think for me, it's probably going to be any of the true crime cases I did, like the Gabby Petito case, which I was extremely accurate about, or the Brian Kohlberger Idaho 4 case, which I was extremely accurate about. Like those are even the Shanquilla Robinson case, which I'm still angry about. I'm not gonna talk about it. Justice for Shanquilla Robinson, but whatever. Like those are the cases that I think and the stuff that I do that really, really, really like is exciting for me and challenging.
Yeah, and that Brian Koberger thing I was watching, and you were nailing things right and left. You were like, oh, he got. I think didn't he get in trouble for something like, something that he did, or he talked back to. I mean, you were nailing these very specific things just by looking at the cards,
Well,
or that process.
the one before that, I pretty much describe him before they had any suspect or anything. I literally was like, this is the person that I think did it. And it describes him. Like that one, when I watch it back myself, I get goosebumps. It was the first Idaho 4 reading I did. And it was like, it kind of scared me so much that I was kind of scared to do another one because I was like, I don't want to like somehow get this video to the wrong person and ruin the case. You know what I mean? Not that that's like,
Yeah.
the odds
No,
are
no.
slim, but still, I was like in my delusional era, like, oh my God, what if?
Yeah, I mean, I love what you say though about like, you're fascinated with actual real people. Pop culture is an entrance point that you can actually talk about human behavior. And I
Yeah.
think that's what a lot of us love about reality TV when it's done,
Oh, yeah.
done in a way that actually, you can talk about these archetypes and these characters and you can relate it to your own experience. There's a couple of other characters in Vanderpump Rules. There's this guy, DJ James Kennedy. I always just have to say DJ James Kennedy because he's British. He's cheated a bunch in the past, very cocky, but he has a lot of he has his parents were divorced. There's a lot of trauma in his background, even though he refuses to admit that. He's like, oh, I'm fine. I'm a very, like he doesn't want to go to therapy. He's with a girl named Allie. He used to be with that girl, Raquel, who is now with Tom, allegedly. But there's this other character, Lala, and Lala is all tough talking. She's like, yo, what's up? Like always talking about her hoo-ha and getting effed and all of this stuff. She used to be with this producer, Randall Emmett, who they are now split up because he was a complete creep, like a mini Harvey Weinstein. But those two, DJ James Kennedy and Lala, very strong personalities. They used to hook up, never dated. But a lot of people wanted me to ask you, do you think there is a future romantically for Lala and DJ James Kennedy?
I'll pull like one or two cards.
You're like, I guess I'll
That
pull
sounds, yeah, that sounds a little ridiculous to me. I don't know. I mean, look, for me, it's like when I'm dealing with a reality star, I always default to like whatever's going to get me the most attention. So like for me, like my initial instinct with my intuition is like if they needed a lifeline to get on the show.
Yeah.
Which maybe is not what people want to hear, but I mean, I'll do it really quick. So are they both single?
No. Lala is single. DJ James Kennedy's with this girl named Allie now, who just got introduced on the show this season.
Okay. Well, so the Lala is the Page of Wands, which to me, that's like someone who's very honest and forward, which makes sense with what you said.
Yeah.
And then the Page of Cups is the other one, DJ Kennedy, whatever. So that's why I asked if he's single or not, just because Page of Cups to me would be like, I'm emotionally invested in someone. So, and then between the two of them and is the Ace of Wands, the return of something old. So there is something that they did after they broke up.
Yes. I mean, actually they never really officially were together, but they were with other people when they did cheat on their respective partners with each other years ago. But they were like the terrible twosome. They would just hang out, drink, and start crap with the other cast members. So they're very, very strong personalities, but they never officially got together. But people are wondering if there was a future for them down the line.
Well, they did it more than once. That's what this is.
Yeah.
Allegedly for entertainers only. But for me, with the Ace of Wands, that tells me more. It happened more times than you know about. Like this is like a recent. Like I don't know if they were together with other people at the time, but when Ace of Wands is reversed, a lot of times that's like allegedly that's about them coming back together when people don't know. So it would be something you don't know about yet. So something happened between them that you don't know about.
That's perfect. That's what we want in reality television. We want these big surprises, and they are great at self-producing. They are just like very acid tongues, both of them.
Okay.
To move it to Real Housewives of New Jersey for a second,
my favorite show, by the way.
Okay, did you watch this season?
Yes, Jersey is my favorite Housewives.
So they had the first part of the reunion last night, you guys, and it was a mess. Just like we are still in this 15 years ago, Melissa, Teresa, Joey, but also the fascinating thing for us, I think, as an audience is Teresa and Louis got married. Their marriage was on TV last week, and there's so many question marks about Louis Ruelas. I don't know if I'm saying his last name correctly. What is I mean, you're a fan of this show. So as a fan, what do you feel like? And then as a professional, what do you feel like?
So I've been contemplating doing a whole video on
you got to.
Jersey, and I think I am. I literally was thinking about this week after the reunion. I was like, okay, I think it's time to do a video on Melissa and Teresa and stuff, which will probably be my next video. But here's my take. Okay, first of all, and this is strictly from an intuitive perspective because my personal opinion is slightly different. From an intuitive perspective, to me, it looks like Louis and Teresa have a tremendous amount of chemistry. How they got together is irrelevant. At least that's from my perspective. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, he was trying to sleep with all these other people. He's a guy. Of course he's trying to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I just like, it's like, to me, it's like, whatever. Like, especially from an intuitive perspective, it doesn't always matter. Obviously I haven't done a full reading to see what his true intentions are, but from what it looks like for me, it just looks like the two of them have an intense amount of chemistry. And so sometimes when you have an intense amount of chemistry, it's hard for you to hear what's going on or see what's going on. So when she says love bubble, yeah, it's possible he's love bombing her. I mean, I'd have to actually do a full spread, which would take forever. But I think from my perspective and my intuitive energy, it's just two people that have an intense chemistry and it's explosive. In terms of the dynamic between like the housewives, I think that it's easier to put a focus on Louis than it is to put a focus on their own relationships. And I think Teresa is inarticulate. So they take advantage of the fact advantage of the fact that she doesn't know how to defend herself and she doesn't know how to volley it back. And then everyone just points a finger at her. She's the villain. We all go home and no one talks about all the horrible things that the other ones have done.
That's fascinating. I mean, you know, the inarticulate thing, I keep coming back to Teresa because nobody can argue that Teresa is a Mount Rushmore housewife. She is no, I mean, like, honestly, like one of the greatest of all times, but season after season, it sometimes gets frustrating because she cannot effectively communicate. There also is something not connecting in her brain. So even when she gets angry, she just sees red and she just says the weirdest things that don't. So it's even not sometimes fun to argue with her or watch the argument because you're never going to get a resolution. You nailed it with the Louis thing because Louis is new. Louis is somebody new that you can actually point to, but also Louis has a very dark past if you look into it. So, yeah. But you're right though. That's what I keep like. They do look happy, and I know looks can sometimes be deceiving, but they seem to be in that love bubble. Now, I don't know if that love bubble will ever burst, but it seems very genuine. I also still am waiting for that other shoe to drop with Louis.
Well, here's the thing, right? All of the issues that everyone has had with Louis are things that were happening before he got there. That's my problem. Okay. So like, for instance, when they brought up that weird video, whatever, that was from years ago. Honestly, he's a weirdo. Like, whatever. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Is that like a crime that he's a
Yeah.
weirdo? No. You know, he's like, his mom is a therapist, whatever. So he has weird therapist terms that he uses. I mean, whatever. It's cringe. It's not really, you know, cool, but
Yeah.
fine, whatever. You know what I mean? And then like the bad business. I mean, have we not seen Joe Gorga get into so many issues with his business allegedly in the past? Like, it may not have been on the show, but I'm sure we all saw the headlines. So for me, it's like, wow, another one that the Gorgas have had issues with. You know what I mean? I mean, look at,
Yeah.
you know, Melissa's business and all the issues with the bags, the alleged fake bags and stuff like that I saw on my Twitter. And then I'm sitting here. Yeah. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, that's not on the show. So it's like weird that we're like, oh no, this pizza oven. I'm like, I really don't care that much about that, because to me, there's a pattern with, maybe there's a pattern with him, but there's also a pattern with you. And then we look at Margaret and all of the issues that she's had, the alleged lawsuits and stuff. And I'm like, why aren't we talking about this in business? Why are we talking about Louis? So for me, it's like, yeah, I think it's interesting to talk about it with Louis, but I always, as a viewer, I'm always confused why I don't see anyone else having to answer for their stuff. And I think that's kind of the issue and why the show is on pause. I don't think the show is on pause because Melissa and Teresa won't work together. I think that's a part of it. But I think the show is on pause because the audience is frustrated. And I think they're realizing that the audience is frustrated. The producers are not paying a close enough attention to what the audience wants.
Yeah, that's it exactly, dude. I mean, and I love that you're coming from that fan perspective, because that is it. We keep hitting the same pavement again and again and again, and it really, you know, I liked both Danielle and Rachel Fuda. But I actually want to see more of them. I don't want to keep getting trapped in this Teresa, Melissa muck in the mire.
It's not Teresa versus Melissa, though. See, this is where
Teresa
people are
Joey.
realizing, no, it's Teresa versus Margaret. And that's where people aren't paying attention. That's where nobody's paying attention, because in my opinion, Margaret is the one that is pushing Melissa to do what she's doing. That's what I think.
No, this is amazing, because then it's like she really is that puppet master behind the scenes that we sometimes completely write off, and she's able to escape.
Oh yeah. Well, because here's the thing, right? One of the problems with the show right now is that when you're watching it, the audience feels like their intelligence is being insulted, because what is being talked about on camera is not what is happening in reality, right? And that happens when housewives overproduce themselves or self-produce themselves.
Yeah.
And so the problem with the show is that when you're a viewer, Bravo's viewer base is very intelligent, very educated for the most part, and older. And so we're watching this and we're not stupid. And I think people like Margaret are overplaying their hand. I loved Margaret, but I think this season in particular, she's just angry and bitter, and I can't stand her. Like, and I'm hoping next season she will be sweeter and funnier. You know what I mean? It seems like something's going on in her life that's making her angry, and it's showing on camera. And I also think she's too busy trying to control the narrative. And so I think the problem really is that the producers need to rein the housewives in and say, you're talking about this, and if you're not talking about this, you need to go.
Will you produce the next season of Real Housewives of New Jersey? I feel like you have such a clear understanding of this, but I love, I don't think you watch a show called Summer House on Bravo, but they just had their reunion this week as well. And they kept bringing up production in the reunion. And I'm like, if we're going to keep talking about production, I want production to actually be involved. I want to know why these decisions are made. And I also want to know, like, so you're saying if you were production next season on Jersey, what would you immediately go in and do right now?
Okay, well, first things first, I would get rid of Melissa or make her a friend of, just for the simple fact of, as a viewer, again, I actually like Melissa, shockingly enough. I really do. Yeah. I think that she's funny. She's fun. I like when she's having fun with the girls and getting drunk. I think she was great on Ultimate Girls Trip. I really do like her. But at this point, it seems like she's unwilling to give us her reality, all the fake storylines we've seen of her. I like her in group settings, but individually, she's not interesting. So for me, I would get rid of her just for one season to see what happens. I think she could be brought back the next season, but I think one season without her is fine. I would specifically tell Rachel that if you're coming back, you need to make sure you get out of Margaret's ass, just because it seems like, for me, when these women are divided, new people have to feel like they pick a side. And it just makes the whole show really difficult to watch. I think Danielle did a good job of trying to integrate herself into the other people. It didn't work, but she did. She has a relationship with all of them. Rachel doesn't have a relationship with Dolores. She didn't have, at least on camera, she didn't have a relationship with Teresa, and her and Jen talked about noses. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like I think she needs a producer push to be like, because it seems to me Rachel seems like she'll do whatever the producers ask. That's the vibe I get from her. So for me, it's like next season I need her to kind of try to connect with all the other girls. It's hard when you're like, I'm on this side and I'm on this side. And I think Rachel did a first season housewife mistake, which is like, I'm super loyal and everyone's going to see me as loyal. And it's like, that's not what the show's about. So that's what I would do.
Jen Aiden, I feel like Jen Aiden has been like completely, you know, I feel like she's been a non-entity this season. I feel like, but I mean, I feel like you have the
build. True.
Yeah, but like, I mean, you'd love her, but then what, you know, you had the husband thing, which obviously she's not getting over anytime soon, which is fine. But then being one of Teresa's foot soldiers in a way, you know, has not done her justice because she is such a dynamic character. And I felt she took a back seat this season when I thought this season she would actually be stronger. She would run. Like we effectively didn't have a big Jen Aiden season, but it is interesting, that thing of Teresa and Margaret. I keep thinking about that, of that kind of toe to toe. They come out in different ways. The Jersey fan base though is so intense. Like you go on Twitter and I mean, they're going to arrest everybody on Jersey because of that fan base. They're unlocking every secret, every bad business deal. Because you said like, well, they don't talk about these business deals or like Gorgas and all that on the show. Well, they sure talking about them online, because I see receipts for everything. They're everywhere. But
it's like you watch like the Real Housewives of Potomac and everything like that, and they talk about all that stuff, and they don't on Jersey. And here's the thing about this season, and I'll give this to Margaret and Jennifer, because I think both of them struggled this season, because I do think there were other storylines and they weren't shown to us. I think production made a decision where they were like, we're going to focus on Melissa versus Teresa and everyone else is the support. So I really don't think it was necessarily 100% either of their faults. I think it was just like I think production overplayed their hand. I think Melissa overplayed her hand, and I think Margaret overplayed her hand in terms of like, we're not talking about our stuff. So if you refuse to talk about your stuff, they can only talk about the things that other people are willing to talk about. So if the only thing anyone wants to talk about is Louis, then the whole thing is going to be focused on Louis. So it backfires on them. I think that's really what happened.
Well, when you do your Jersey video, will you please pull some cards for Louis and see?
Oh yeah, totally. It's going to be
what the energy is there for him, because that's the big. It's not a question mark. I am so. You know, you can't disregard all of those stories. And I do think they present as very happy. And I think they probably are very happy. But I sometimes feel that he has inner demons that he cannot control. And that is why he does so much self-help work. That's why he's always on like, you know, retreats and men's retreats and trying to really figure out potentially the demons and to quiet those voices inside his head.
Here's one thing I will say, though. And I say this with respect because I do love Teresa, but Teresa is not an angel and she's not 100% innocent. And sometimes the energy we put out, we attract. And so that's something that I always keep in mind with her. As much as she's my favorite housewife, but as much as I would say, you know, as much as I would love her, I would say, you know, sometimes you get what you give. So that is something that I'm curious about when I'm going to do this reading, but I'm curious myself because I'm like, how much of it is, you know, an energetic, you know, exchange? Like, did you put this out and it came back to you? Maybe she's a victim, you know, obviously I don't know. I would have to do the reading, but you know, she's not innocent. So it doesn't shock me. You know, I mean, think about it, right? Teresa has a giant personality and she's, you know, super, you know, explosive. So is Louis. So it's like attracts like sometimes. So it's interesting. It's complicated. I don't think it's black and white.
What's it like being sane? Because you have very sane opinions. You know what is it? No, but I want to point out to the audience, this is how you do it though. You can actually be a huge fan of somebody and still actually point out realities in their lives. Nobody is 100% perfect and nobody is 100% bad. But like, that's like what you got to do is that like, I'm a huge fan of this person. These are kind of what I do see though, that I might potentially have held her back in the past or might hold her back in the future. I love that the reunion started off with Joji Udici calling in of like, Teresa, does Bill Aiden do under bag eyes? Does he do that? Like, I'm like, you get the sense that they fully still are in each other's lives. I find that also very interesting.
Well, I also think, I mean, look, I mean, Teresa has never liked Melissa. That's obvious. So yeah, I'm Italian. So I already know, like Teresa's like everyone in my family. I already know, like as soon as Melissa walked in, she never had a chance with Teresa. That's obvious. So.
The Joey Teresa, I know it's brother, sister, sibling relationship, but that is so intense too. It's like there is this deep passion between them, and I don't mean anything disgusting or something,
No,
but it
yeah.
is sometimes like scorned lovers. It's like it's so like you broke my heart. You know, it is so passionate.
I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's that Teresa's the older sister and they're old school Italians. And so she's his second mom. So he's just lashing out at his mom and he has mommy issues. That's literally what it is. It's pretty much every Italian man. That's just the dynamic.
But you're old school Italian, and you know that Melissa and her mom should have been invited to that wedding to get from the jump.
I'm gonna be honest with you. That was to me, that was complete fabricated storyline. There's no way you're gonna get me to believe that either of them cared about that. Like, I think Teresa was just like, oh, this will be good for the show. I think Melissa was just like, I don't. This is like my great battle. Like, as far as I'm concerned, that entire argument over the mom, I don't think
Yeah.
either of them cared. That's the problem though with why this isn't entertaining. We both know they can't stand each other. We both know that the little things that they're doing is to get one over on one, and it's boring because we're like, Teresa hates her, Melissa hates her, like for different reasons. And Melissa, I don't think Melissa thinks that Teresa's trying to ruin her marriage. I think Melissa just hates the fact that Teresa's always hated her.
Yeah. I mean, it's that thing, it's that itch that you'll never be able to scratch. It can never be fixed. And that, you know,
Literally.
and sometimes you just have to accept that some people just don't like you and they're never going to like you. It could be the cut of your jib. It's not even something that you did. It could just be a feeling, a vibe. And that's so hard to accept for some people. Do you have a minute to talk about Kardashians, or you gotta,
yeah, totally.
Okay. By the way, I want to plug everything. It's Antphrodite.com. You can get a personal reading. So this is a great gift for yourself, but it's also potentially a great gift for a loved one. Like, do you have the most, like, are those fun for you? Because you do like just normal people. Like you said, you know, I'm fascinated with normal people. Are those scary or fun for you?
No, they're fun because like people will just like submit a little bit of information. I send them a video. So it's like really fun for me. Yeah.
I bet you're the type of person too that like you'll get those messages like a year later of like, you changed my life
All the time.
Like that reading changed my life.
That's my favorite part of what I do.
I love that. Okay, so Kardashians, they had the premiere of their season 3 of their Hulu show this past week, but you know, it felt weird because on the run up to this, we usually have so much Kardashian pop culture air that is being sucked in by them. And it doesn't seem, or just the vibe and the feeling I've gotten is it's not like they're purposefully taking a step back, but it seems just uncertain of where they go from here. And I don't know if I'm just personally reading into that or that's the reality. What is your take on the Kardashians, which I know could be a 6-hour take, but right now, what is your take on them?
Okay, so I've been indifferent to them. I mean, Kardashian content is great for anybody who does anything pop culture. People are obsessed with them. They love to hate them. I not really invested and never have been. Here's my opinion. I just think that they owned an era, and I don't think they know how to adapt or survive. And so for me, times are changing, and they're not cool. That is the problem. And they're not cool because they're too wealthy and successful. That's really what it boils down to. I think they're not relatable at all anymore. And I think that they're trying to push the children next, which is smart. And I think it will keep them going. But I also think that their core fan base is not as interested in their children as much as they thought they would be. I think especially because we're going to start having conversations that I've seen in my own readings about, what is acceptable for children in terms of content, or in terms of, putting them in front of a camera and stuff like that. I think it's going to be a big cultural topic that we start having more and more conversations about in the next coming years. And maybe they'll ride that controversy wave. But for me, they're just not cool, period. Like, it's not cool. Kylie Lip Kits used to be cool. Now they're not cool. Kim used to be cool. Now she's not cool. Like, that's it. And it's not even shade because they're massively successful. So who cares?
I mean, they're still fine.
But they're just not cool. Their cool factor is gone. And I think that just happens. You're an it girl for a while. I think they had a really great run. And now I think they're just going to coast on their businesses. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
You mentioned that in the very beginning of this, where you said, that people love to hate them. And I
Right.
always think that's such an interesting concept. And it's a very valid form of, monetizing your person. But
Right.
at the same time, it is that dark thing of like, well, man, I want people to like me. Like, I mean, I want, I'm like Melissa with Teresa. Like, why don't you like me? I
Right.
don't
Right.
want people to hate watch or hate listen. I want people to listen because they like this. But it is interesting, people truly are hate watching them now. And how can you then monetize hate watching into the new decade, into a new, like how can you springboard off hate watching? Usually you end with hate watching. That's where it ends. Can
Right.
they pivot from hate watching at any other point? And what could that possibly be? The best thing that they do have is, Skims is what I hear a good product. I don't
Right.
think Kylie Lip Kits are, but Skims are like, if they
Right.
invest in good products, that can never be taken away from them.
Well, it's interesting because like the only person that I really feel like I've ever connected to, and this is why I love doing readings on celebrities sometimes because it was Kim. Every time I do a reading on Kim, I'm like, wait, why do I kind of like your energy? Especially when it comes to her relationship with men. I feel like I relate a lot. And I feel like Kim's personality is very similar to mine in a lot of things that she does. And so for me, like one of the best things that I ever did when I started doing Kardashian readings was really dive into her energy because it made me respect her and understand her. Because, we have a perception of her based off of the media, but me going into her energy I found her to be very likable and very respectful in her own way, and a workhorse, which I really like. And so I think their only way to survive moving forward is for them to break down the walls. But I think that they've learned so much, like how to protect those walls and keep those walls up and feed us what they want us to talk about rather than what is actually going on. I don't know if they're going to know how to do that.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Kim always seems to be the person that is very nice, very, like will do the work, do it with a smile on her face. Every encounter I hear that people have with her, she's always very nice and stuff. But I do wonder, it's like, listen, I feel like you have a talent. You have something that is like, okay, this is Antphrodite's talent.
Right.
Kim's talent is what it, because we're not giving like, maybe we're giving participation trophies for being
Right.
nice now. But what is, in this upcoming 5 years, what is that talent that she has that no one can take away? And I just keep coming back to products. But in terms of relationships, you said you did the reading and you kind of understood
Right.
her. What is her pattern with men, in your opinion?
Well, to your first question, she's a clown, a modern day clown. Like we laugh at her, we, get entertained by her, whatever. Her entire business model is a modern day clown. And it is a talent to be that shameless. So for me, that's kind of how I see her and her family is like where they're a dunk tank and we're throwing tomatoes and then we're hitting the target and she falls in the dunk tank and she signed up for that. That's kind of what I see. Because, people would crowd around for the dunk tank and throw things. And when you're at a carnival, that's what you're doing. And that's just who she is. Is it really, my typical idea of talent? No, but I guess there is some talent to being that shameless. As far as her dynamic with men, for me, I see her as someone that is, when she loves someone or cares someone, she wants to protect them at all costs. And even if that's at the detriment of herself. And so for me, I think that's been her problem in every relationship she's had, where maybe you don't perceive it as her protecting them, but in her mind, she is. Because I think for her, she's learned through being in the industry for so long that if I want to hide something, I have to give you something. So when a story comes out about a guy or about her, you should be thinking, what is the story she didn't want them to know? And why did she give them that story instead?
That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too. We just had it. We came off the tail end of Succession, and I keep playing around this thing in my head of the real Succession now is who's going to succeed Kris Jenner. Is Kim going to come in there? Is Chloe, it's like Kylie might be angling for it. I mean, I think it's obviously going to be Kim,
It's
but is
Kim.
this kind of, yeah, obviously she's, and I keep thinking about that scene when Kim's going to eventually tell Kris like her day is done. Like,
Yeah.
I got the family now. And I think that's the kind of Shakespearean tragedy that is like, this family's headed for. But also what a speaking towards persistence. I mean, I remember her doing like the tummy tea ads, and look at her now. Like, I mean, persistence pays off and being shameless in a way.
Okay, let's go back a little bit. Let's not deny that other people didn't legitimize her. Like she had a
Well,
lot of help from
Mr.
a lot of
West, yes.
she had a lot of help from a lot of other people. Kanye West, a ton of other people did help legitimize her star. So it's not like she did everything just solo on her own. That's the one thing I will say. She had a lot of help from a lot of other people, especially to get into things like the Met Gala. So
But was that smart on her part? That couldn't have been dumb luck. That was her potentially picking the right horses at the right time.
I don't think it was just smart on her part. I think it was smart on their part. I think it was a mutually beneficial exchange.
Have you ever pulled cards on anything of Mr. West's struggles
A
in the
million
last year?
times. A million times. There's so
Is
many
it all
videos on
dark?
him. I genuinely think he's the type of person where he thinks in black and white. So for him, if someone did something to him, everyone liked that as bad. That's kind of his mentality. I've been seeing that for years, though. And I've been saying for years that I think that there's something else going on. You know, I'm not a doctor, but there's definitely, for years, I've been saying this. Like, my problem with Kanye West is he speaks in fragments, and then other people put his pieces together and say that he said something that he never said, and then they claim he's a genius. But I'm like, he's not a genius. He just speaks in broken fragments and allows you to make what you want him to be.
Yeah.
And it drives me insane because I cannot stand the way he communicates, because I don't think he's intentionally being manipulative, but it is manipulative, because I'm like, you think he said this, you think he said that, and you think he said this, but all of you are wrong. What he said is none of that. It was just pieces of a sentence with parts missing, and you filled in the blank where you would want to fill in the blank.
Yeah, we want to make people these kind of legendary stars and these geniuses. Like, we need that. It's weird how quickly we want idols and how much we make them this thing, and then they completely disappoint us, even though we're part of the process of making them. But in terms of like then Chloe and Tristan, Chloe, she keeps seeming to go back to this guy. I mean, that's the other thing I think they're known for, is really poor choices sometimes in relationships and believing in themselves internally, because they keep making the same mistakes. Like a lot of us,
Right.
we do that in our lives as well. And I think that's fascinating, is that $1 billion is not going to prevent you from being stupid in your own personal life.
Okay, well, first of all, I have a different take with Chloe and Tristan. And this is something, and this is a defense to her, even though, you know, it is embarrassing. When you have a following, whether it's small or big, and I'm sure it's worse when you're at their level, but I can tell you from my own personal experience, it is very difficult to date, okay? Because people get weird about it, okay? And there's nothing you can do about it. It's a really long topic of conversation I won't get into, but they get weird, uncomfortable, jealous, whatever. Just it's like an elephant in the room. And so in Chloe's defense, there are not a million people trying to date her. I promise you there are not. I do not think her options are as big as you think. You might think, oh, she's famous and rich, who wouldn't want to be with her? A lot of people cannot handle someone in the public eye, or even if they think they can, they get weird about it. So the only thing I will say is it's probably really easy for her to run back to something that's familiar when she's trying to be with other people, and it doesn't work because her fame is in the way.
Yeah. I mean, and she's locked away in this Calabasas castle.
Yep.
Like, of course. I mean, you know, I totally agree with that. It just is interesting, because then it's like you're trapped by the success that you craved in certain ways.
Yep.
And Tristan has this huge ego. He cheats on her. He still wants to, like, yo, girl, you the one, though. Like, he's still pursuing her heavily. And I'm sure that's got to mess with your mind like anybody else. But it is one of those are the things that I find fascinating, that I feel like they don't really delve into on the show.
No.
So it's up for people like us to have these kind of, this is the conversation you have about them, because they could have the conversation and they refuse to.
I mean, when someone is persistent and chasing you, and you had something previously, they're going to unearth your feelings that you buried, period.
Yeah. Okay, listen, this has been amazing. I could talk to you for hours and hours, and this is why this dude is online for hours and hours. Okay, the final thing is, and I hesitate to do this, but the audience was like, can he tell us something about me? Can you do anything? Okay. Is there, or is this just uncouth to ask? And I'm scared to ask, because I don't want to find out that I'm a horrible, bad person. Is there, they just said, can you tell us something about Ryan, or something for the future?
I'll pull a few cards. Yeah. I'll just a little taste, a little.
You something. Remind me of Raquel and Tom Sandoval. And
no, you know, people always seem to think that it's like there's something like nefarious or crazy, but most of the time it's really just like a simple like thing here. Oh, see, the things like this are so simple. So it may not be something exactly about you, but so the sun is reversed, which is like someone who's not sort of in the best place. The Three of Cups is reversed, and the Queen of Cups too, which is about someone that sometimes doesn't always ask for help. So
That's nailed it. Well, nailed it. Yeah.
So a lot of times when I pull things like this is for people who are overwhelmed or frustrated or feeling isolated. And so really the only thing I need you to do is make sure that you're talking to people about the things that you want to talk about, connecting with the people that you care about. And to me, this is about reconnecting with someone specifically. There's someone here that you need to reconnect with, someone that you were super close with. I don't think that there's a problem, but I do think that there's been distance. And for me, there needs to be some sort of like come to Jesus, kumbaya, reigniting. And this is something that will be happening pretty soon. The Three of Cups tells me that it's kind of inevitable. It's like sometimes someone introduces you to someone, bump into someone, makes you think of them, or sometimes, you text someone who knows this person, whatever. But regardless, it does look like there's some sort of reconnection and a stronger bond between you and someone that you used to be closer to in the past.
Anything about me being a successful billionaire or nothing just jumped out at you on that?
Well, you know what? You know what I say? If I pull something really quick and I don't see any issues when it comes to career or anything like that, usually that indicates status quo.
Yeah.
So that means you're doing pretty good.
No, yeah, I'm actually, that's the one thing I'm all right on. But Antphrodite, I mean, just truly, I hope I get to talk to you again. I mean, what a bright energy. Wait, do you believe in the afterlife? I know that's a really big question. My mom's sick right now, and I was just wondering. I keep thinking about that, and I was like, you seem like such a good energy. Do you believe in that we go somewhere after? I know that's such an insane question to end with.
No. I love stuff like that. No, absolutely. I do believe in afterlife. I don't believe in hell. I believe hell is earth. Because I mean, just really quickly, when it comes to people who like, oh, we're burning in eternal damnation and we're tortured. There are people that are tortured for like 7 years straight on earth. So if you were to tell them that hell is worse, they'd laugh in your face. Be like, there was nothing worse than what I experienced on earth, with true crime and stuff like that. So for me, I don't believe in hell. I do believe in different layers of an afterlife where people are rehabilitated to go back with everyone else.
Yeah.
And I believe that I do believe in reincarnation, but I believe that it's a different part of us that's part of a same bigger soul, and one that is familiar with us, but not the us that we know.
Man, I love you, dude. So go subscribe to the YouTube.
Yes.
Go to his website. Sign up for a reading. What are the dreams for you? Like, do you pull cards for yourself? Of like, am I going to have a NBC TV show? Like, do you do that for yourself? Like, is that the dream? What is the dream for you at this point?
Every year I try to work with production companies, and every year, I'm sure you're familiar, things just never work out.
It's so fun, isn't it? It's so fun.
One day I would love to have my own show. I think I would do good on an ensemble. I mean, I would love my own show, with what I do with tarot, but I also think I'd work great with a cast. And then I also hope one day I find love. So, there's a lot of things that I would hope. I also would love to do something where I like go to haunted houses. I think me going to haunted houses, haunted places would be so much fun. So I speak it into existence. I know one day I'll have my own show. Hi, Bravo. But you never know. You never know.
By the way, that would be what a great segment, a recurring segment on like Watch What Happens Live or something, to have you come on, or at like a reunion or something like that of like, and by the way, like Jen Aiden, they had like a teacup reader on one of her parties on Jersey. You would blow these ladies. I mean, have you ever done a celebrities in person?
Yes. Yeah, I have celebrity clientele. I have done it in person. I've done it online. Yes. From like influencer to B-list to A-list. I've done it all. So yeah.
Well, I truly hope you'll come on again someday. And thank you so much, Antphrodite. This was so great. And you guys, I'm going to put all that information in the show notes. You go support. You might already know him, but if you don't, he is your new obsession. And we'll talk to you next time.